Hello family, welcome to Stories with JAYVIL. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and remember to turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Now sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The village of Umukala was known for its vibrant culture and close-knit community. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, and secrets rarely stayed hidden for long. In the heart of this village stood a grand house, the home of Chief Emeka and his wife, Adaora. To outsiders, they appeared to be the perfect couple, wealthy, influential, and admired by all. But within the walls of their mansion, a storm was brewing. Adaora was a striking woman in her mid-30s, known for her grace and intelligence. She had given her all to her marriage, sacrificing her own dreams to support Emeka's rise to prominence. Yet, despite her devotion, she had noticed subtle changes in her husband's behavior. At first, they seemed trivial: longer hours at work, distracted conversations, and an unusual attentiveness to his phone. But as weeks turned into months, the changes became impossible to ignore. Emeka began coming home later than usual, often mumbling excuses about business meetings or delays in town. He grew distant, his once affectionate gestures replaced by cold indifference. What hurt Adaora the most was the faint scent of an unfamiliar perfume clinging to his clothes, a sweet floral aroma she knew wasn't hers. Adaora's suspicions grew, but she kept them to herself. Confronting Emeka without evidence could backfire. He was a proud man, and accusing him of infidelity could lead to accusations of paranoia. Instead, she chose to observe quietly, her sharp mind piecing together the puzzle. One sunny afternoon, while tidying the house, Adaora decided to clean Emeka's car. He had left it parked in the driveway, as usual, before heading out on one of his business trips. As she dusted the dashboard and wiped the seats, something caught her eye: a floral scarf wedged between the seat and the door. Adaora froze, her breath hitching as she held the scarf in her hands. It was delicate, with a pattern of pink and white flowers, and it carried the same scent she had smelled on Emeka's clothes. Her chest tightened, and for a moment she felt as though the ground beneath her had shifted. Her mind raced with questions. Who did this scarf belong to? How had it ended up in her husband's car? And most importantly, why had Emeka been so careless as to leave behind such damning evidence? Adaora didn't cry. She had always been a woman of strength, and this moment was no exception. Instead of succumbing to her emotions, she carefully folded the scarf and tucked it into her apron pocket. She knew she couldn't confront Emeka just yet, not without a plan. That evening, as she prepared dinner, Adaora's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Her instincts told her that the scarf was only the beginning of a larger betrayal. She resolved to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. In the quiet of the night, as Emeka snored peacefully beside her, Adaora stared at the ceiling, her mind churning. She was no ordinary woman, and if her husband thought he could outsmart her, he was gravely mistaken. This was no longer just about their marriage. It was about her dignity, her pride, and the respect she deserved. The first step, she decided, was to confirm her suspicions. And when she did, she would not confront him in private. No, the entire village of Umuchala would bear witness to his betrayal. Adaora awoke the next morning with a clear plan. She knew that uncovering the truth would require patience and cunning. Emeka had become careful, shielding his movements and actions, but Adaora was determined to expose the betrayal that now felt undeniable. As Emeka prepared for another day, humming a cheerful tune, Adaora played the part of the dutiful wife. She served him breakfast, smiling warmly, and even ironed his agbada with precision. Inside, however, her heart burned with questions. "Are you going into town today?" she asked casually, watching for any reaction. Emeka glanced at her, his expression calm. "Yes, I have a meeting with some business partners. I'll be back late, so don't wait up." The lie rolled off his tongue effortlessly, and Adaora felt a pang of anger. But she nodded, hiding her emotions. "All right, my dear, I'll keep dinner warm for you." As soon as Emeka left, Adaora sprang into action. She knew this meeting was an excuse, and she intended to follow him. Wrapping a scarf around her head and donning a simple wrapper, she blended into the bustling streets of Umuchala, making her way toward the main road. She spotted Emeka's car parked outside a small boutique on the outskirts of the village. Careful to stay hidden, she approached the shop and peered through the window. There he was, laughing with a young woman. Adaora's heart clenched as she recognized the woman, Simi, a shop attendant known for her beauty and charm. Simi was dressed in a fitted blouse and a vibrant skirt that accentuated her figure. She leaned toward Emeka, her laughter loud and flirtatious. Emeka, in turn, looked at her with an expression Adaora hadn't seen in years, playful and full of admiration. Adaora felt a sharp pain in her chest, but she refused to let her emotions take over. She stepped back, her mind racing. It wasn't enough to witness this moment, she needed undeniable proof. The next day, Adaora visited the shop under the guise of shopping for fabric. Simi greeted her with a wide smile, unaware of who Adaora truly was. "Madam, welcome. How can I help you today?" Adaora played along, feigning interest in a roll of Ankara fabric. As Simi wrapped the fabric for her, Adaora noticed a small photo frame on the counter. Inside was a picture of Simi and Emeka standing close together, their smiles intimate. Her heart sank, but she maintained her composure. "Is that your boyfriend?" she asked sweetly, nodding toward the picture. Simi blushed, her cheeks turning a deep shade of red. "Ah, no, he's just a friend, a very generous friend," she added with a sly smile. Adaora left the shop, clutching the fabric tightly. She had seen enough. Her suspicions were no longer just thoughts, they were now truths etched into her soul. That evening, as she sat in her room, Adaora stared at the evidence she had gathered, the scarf, the photograph, and the lingering scent of betrayal. The time for silence was over. It was time to act, and Adaora would ensure that Emeka and Simi paid the price for their deceit. In the depths of her mind, a plan began to form, a public, humiliating plan that would shake the entire village of Umukala to its core. The annual Umukala Yam Festival was just weeks away, and Adaora saw her opportunity. The festival was the pride of the village, drawing everyone to the town square for a day of celebration, feasting, entertainment. It was a time of joy, but Adaora intended to turn it into something far more dramatic, a stage for exposing her husband's betrayal. Adaora volunteered to lead the festival planning committee, something she hadn't done in years. Her sudden enthusiasm surprised many, including Emeka, who casually remarked one evening, "You haven't been this involved in the festival since we first got married." "What's changed?" Adaora smiled sweetly. "It's been a while since I immersed myself in the community. Besides, I want this year to be unforgettable." If only Emeka knew how unforgettable it would be. As the weeks went by, Adaora orchestrated the festival preparations with precision. She ensured that the best drummers and dancers were hired, the food vendors were vetted, and the decorations were elaborate. But the centerpiece of her plan was the masquerade troupe, famous for their bold and often satirical performances. Adaora arranged a private meeting with the troupe leader, a wiry man named Igwe, known for his quick wit and love for drama. "Madam Adaora, what an honor to be part of your festival," Igwe exclaimed, bowing slightly. "The honor is mine, Igwe," Adaora replied, her tone polite but firm. "I have a special request for your performance." Igwe leaned in, curious. "Special? We love challenges. Tell me more." Adaora handed him a piece of paper, her instructions written clearly. She detailed a story she wanted the troupe to perform, a tale of betrayal, greed, and consequences. The characters bore uncanny resemblance to Emeka and Simi, though Adaora left the specifics to Igwe's imagination. Igwe read the note, his eyes widening. "Madam, this will cause an uproar." Adaora's gaze was steady. "That's precisely what I want." Meanwhile, Adaora carefully maneuvered to ensure both Emeka and Simi would attend the festival. She casually reminded Emeka of his duty as a community leader, emphasizing how important it was for him to be present. "People look up to you," she said one evening over dinner. "You can't miss it," Emeka, unaware of her plans, agreed. "Of course, Adaora, I'll be there." As for Simi, Adaora used a more subtle approach. Through a trusted confidant, she sent an anonymous invitation to Simi, hinting at a secret admirer who wanted to meet her at the festival. Simi, flattered and intrigued, eagerly accepted. The day of the festival arrived, and Umukala was alive with excitement. The streets were adorned with colorful banners, the aroma of roasted yams filled the air, and villagers gathered in their finest attire. Adora, dressed in a stunning Ankara gown, moved through the crowd with a calm demeanor, greeting everyone warmly. Emeka arrived later, his ardor flowing as he joined the festivities. He was greeted with cheers and respect, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. Simi, dressed in a vibrant red gown, slipped in quietly, her eyes scanning the crowd for her mysterious admirer. Adora watched from a distance, her heart pounding but her face calm. Everything was in place. The stage was set and the masquerades would soon take the spotlight. As the drummer signaled the start of the performance, Adora took her seat near the front. The crowd gathered, eager to see the famous troupe in action. But for Adora, this was more than entertainment, it was the beginning of her revenge. The masquerades stepped forward, their costumes vibrant and their masks fierce. The drums thundered, the flutes wailed, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Adora leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing on her lips. The show was about to begin. The crowd in Umuala's town square buzzed with excitement as the masquerades stepped into the spotlight. Their masks were a riot of colors, their movements rhythmic and hypnotic. The performance began with a comedic skit about village life, drawing hearty laughter from the audience. But as the drumming softened and the mood shifted, the masquerades transitioned into a story unlike any other. Adora sat at the front, her composure unshaken as the lead masquerade raised his voice, projecting it over the audience. Once upon a time in a prosperous village, he began, there lived a man of great wealth and influence. His wife, a pillar of strength, stood by him through thick and thin. But this man, this foolish man, forgot the sacred vow of loyalty and betrayed the one who loved him most. The crowd murmured, some laughing at the boldness of the tale, while others exchanged knowing glances. Stories of betrayal were not uncommon in Umukala, but the specificity of the tale began to unnerve some. The lead masquerade continued, his tones shifting between humor and satire. This man, blinded by greed and lust, sought the company of a younger woman, a shop attendant whose beauty could deceive even the wisest of men. Together they schemed and plotted, forgetting that the eyes of the ancestors see all. Adora glanced at Emeka out of the corner of her eye. He was shifting in his seat, his usual confidence replaced by discomfort. His jaw tightened, his eyes darting toward the stage and then to the crowd as if searching for an escape. Simi, standing at the edge of the square, clutched her handbag nervously. The story was beginning to feel far too familiar. She looked around, hoping no one would notice her, but the masquerades had a way of drawing attention where it was least wanted. The tale grew more intense as the masquerades acted out scenes of deceit and betrayal. They mimicked the wealthy man lavishing the shop attendant with gifts, expensive wrappers, gold jewelry, and perfumes. The crowd roared with laughter, but Adora's face remained calm, her hands clasped elegantly in her lap. But the wife, the lead masquerade exclaimed, pointing into the audience. She was no ordinary woman. She was wise and cunning, a queen who would not be disgraced without a fight. Adora met the lead masquerade's gaze, a subtle nod confirming their unspoken alliance. The story was building to its climax, and the tension in the square was palpable. At the height of the performance, the masquerade troupe paused, their movements frozen as the drummers slowed to a deep, steady beat. The lead masquerade held up a floral scarf identical to the one Adora had found in Emeka's car. "Does this look familiar to anyone?" he bellowed, his voice echoing across the square. The crowd gasped, their laughter fading into shocked whispers. Emeka's face turned ashen, and Simi's hand flew to her mouth. The lead masquerade didn't wait for a response. "This scarf belongs to the shop attendant," he declared, pointing dramatically toward the edge of the crowd. All eyes turned to Simi, who stood frozen like a deer caught in headlights. Emeka rose from his seat, his voice trembling. "This is ridiculous. This is just a performance." Adora stood slowly, her voice calm but cutting through the chaos. "Is it ridiculous, Emeka? Or is it the truth you thought you could hide?" The square erupted in a mix of gasps and murmurs. Adora stepped forward, her regal demeanor commanding the crowd's attention. In her hands she held the photograph of Simi and Emeka, as well as a handwritten note Simi had left for him. She displayed them for all to see. "This is no mere story," Adaora said, her voice steady. "This is my life. This is our betrayal." The crowd fell silent, the weight of the revelation hanging in the air. The masquerades stepped back, their work done, as Adaora prepared to deliver the final blow. The festival, meant to celebrate the bounty of the land, had become the stage for the most humiliating moment in Emeka and Simi's lives. And Adaora, with her head held high, was far from finished. The square was silent, save for the crackling torches and the faint rustle of the crowd shifting in their seats. All eyes were on Adaora as she stood tall in the center, her composure radiating power. In her hands were the artifacts of betrayal, the floral scarf, the photograph, and the note. "Let us not pretend anymore," Adaora began, her voice clear and sharp, cutting through the tension. "For months I have watched, I have listened, and I have gathered the truth. My husband, Chief Emeka, and this woman," she gestured towards Simi, whose face was pale with shock, "have insulted the vows we all hold sacred." Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by a wave of murmurs. Simi tried to retreat into the shadows, her steps faltering as she realized there was no escape. The lead masquerade, as if sensing her intent, stepped forward, blocking her path with a dramatic wave of his staff. "Let the people hear the truth," he bellowed, his mask tilted toward her. "Face the ancestors' judgment." Adaora held up the scarf. "This was left in my husband's car, carelessly discarded, much like his respect for me. And this photograph." She unfolded the picture and handed it to a nearby elder, who squinted at it before passing it around. "It shows them together, laughing as if there was no consequence to their actions." The murmurs grew louder. Some in the crowd began to shout, voices rising in anger or disbelief. Emeka stood, his face flushed with humiliation. "Adaora, enough of this. You are making a scene." Adaora turned to him, her expression unflinching. "A scene? You made this scene the moment you chose deceit over loyalty. You shamed me, and now you will bear the shame you deserve." She held up the handwritten note, her voice steady as she read aloud. "My dearest Emeka, thank you for the gifts. I cannot wait until we can steal another moment together. Yours always, Simi." The crowd erupted. Shouts of condemnation and disbelief filled the air, while some onlookers laughed mockingly. Emeka's shoulders slumped as the weight of his disgrace settled on him. Simi, trembling, tried to defend herself. "This is not fair. You set this up. You tricked me into coming here." Adaora turned her gaze to Simi, her voice calm but piercing. "Tricked you? No, Simi. I simply gave you the opportunity to show your face. You made the choice to betray a married man, and now you must live with that choice." The crowd jeered, some shouting insults at Simi, others praising Adaora's bravery. The masquerades, sensing the climax, began a rhythmic chant, their drums echoing through the square. It was a haunting sound, as if the ancestors themselves were passing judgment. Adaora turned back to the crowd, her voice rising above the noise. "Let this be a lesson to everyone here. Loyalty and respect are the foundations of our lives. Betrayal brings only shame and ruin." With that, she turned and walked away, her head held high, leaving Emeka and Simi to face the wrath of the villagers. The masquerades followed, their performance complete as the festival descended into chaos. Emeka and Simi's names would be forever etched into Umukala's memory as the symbols of dishonor. But Adaora, she would be remembered as the woman who stood tall in the face of betrayal, reclaiming her dignity in the most public and powerful way possible. As Adaora walked away from the square, whispers and shouts followed in her wake. The once jubilant Yam Festival had transformed into a spectacle of scandal and judgment. People clustered in groups, discussing the shocking events they had just witnessed. "Did you see the photograph?" one woman whispered. "And that scarf," another added. "She planned this perfectly. What a bold woman." Chief Emeka remained rooted in place, his face pale and drenched in sweat. The once proud man, admired for his wealth and influence, was now a figure of ridicule. Simi, trembling and humiliated, clutched her handbag tightly, unable to meet the piercing stares of the crowd. The elders, seated in their honorary chairs, exchanged disapproving glances. Elder Okafor, the oldest among them, rose slowly and tapped his walking stick against the ground. The crowd fell silent. "Chief Emeka," Elder Okafor began, his deep voice echoing across the square, "you have brought shame upon yourself and your household. You, who are supposed to be a leader and an example to the younger generation, have failed in your duties. This betrayal is a stain not only on your family but on this community." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding solemnly. "And you, young woman," he continued, pointing his stick at Simi, "you have allowed greed to lead you astray. You knew this man was married, yet you pursued him for your own gain. Shame on you." Simi's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. Her attempts at defending herself earlier had only worsened her situation. Now she could only stand in silence, absorbing the condemnation from every corner of the square. As the festival ended, Emeka and Simi found themselves isolated. The crowd dispersed slowly, but the murmurs and sidelong glances continued. Adaora had returned to their home, where she calmly began packing a small bag for herself. When Emeka arrived home later that evening, he found her seated in the living room, her demeanor composed but unyielding. "Adaora," he began, his voice hoarse, I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," she replied coldly. "Words mean little to me now. Your actions have spoken loud enough." Emeka sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "I made a mistake, Adaora. Please forgive me." "I was foolish." Adaora stood, her posture regal. "Forgiveness is a gift, Emeka, and right now I am not ready to give it. You betrayed me, not just in private, but in a way that has embarrassed our entire household. You've broken the trust we built over the years." Emeka looked up, desperation in his eyes. "I'll do anything to make this right." Adaora shook her head. "Making it right isn't that simple. Trust takes years to build and moments to destroy. You must now live with the consequences of your actions." Meanwhile, Simi had become the talk of the village. Her once beautiful boutique stood empty as customers abandoned her in droves. No one wanted to be associated with the woman who had nearly destroyed a family. Unable to bear the shame, Simi packed her belongings and left Umukala under the cover of night. Some said she moved to a distant town, hoping to start anew. Others whispered that she had gone to the city, where her scandal might be forgotten. Whatever the truth, Simi was never seen in Umuchala again. The villagers, having witnessed such a public humiliation, began treating Emeka with scorn. His once golden reputation as a leader was tarnished. Men and women who once sought his counsel avoided him, and even his business associates hesitated to involve themselves with him. One day, while walking through the market, Emeka overheard a group of young men laughing. "That's the man who betrayed his wife for a scarf and a smile," one of them said, pointing at him. Emeka's heart sank. Adaora, on the other hand, was met with respect and admiration. Women approached her in the market, praising her strength and courage. Some even asked for advice on how to handle their own marital struggles. In the weeks that followed, Adaora maintained her dignity. Though she chose not to leave Emeka, she made it clear that their relationship would never be the same. Emeka, desperate to earn her forgiveness, changed his ways, becoming more attentive and humble. But Daura was no longer the same woman. She had discovered her inner strength and was determined to focus on herself. She resumed her work as a seamstress, creating beautiful designs that drew attention from neighboring villages. Her business flourished, and she became a beacon of resilience in Umukala. The story of Adaora, Emeka, and Simi became a lesson passed down through generations. Mothers told their daughters of Adaora's bravery, and fathers warned their sons about the dangers of betrayal. Adaora's name would forever be remembered in Umukala, not as a victim, but as a queen who reclaimed her throne with grace and power. We've come to the end of this story. Please subscribe to my channel to support me. Thank you.